and that's when I felt it, a purple lamp that wasn't there before. I sat down in the empty row of the school bus, and the whispering started instantly. Why is she even coming on the school trip? Didn't her mom just die last week? I folded open the map of where we were going and started tearing up, because it was the same lake me and my mom used to go every year before she got cancer, and I knew I couldn't say no to coming. But now, curled up in the corner alone with my forehead pressed to the window, I had no idea how I was gonna survive 3 days in a place where every memory was her. We got off the bus to start the tour, and when I met our tour guide, his eyes were instantly filled with pity, and I knew the school had told him what happened too. So during lunch, I locked myself in the bathroom, sat on the sink, ready to fake being sick so I could go home. But out the window, there was the lake me and my mom used to swim in, where she'd squeeze my hands and say, "Be strong for me, baby." So I walked out and smiled through the boat safety talk, all to stay strong for my mom. And the harder I smiled, the more everyone kept their distance from me, like they were all waiting for something to happen that I didn't know about yet. At sunset, Ms. Alvarez led us into the rowboats, and when we made it to the middle of the lake, the tour guide took out a floating lantern and raised it to the sky. For a second, I closed my eyes to blink back the tears, because this was me and my mom's tradition every year. When I opened them, everyone around me had a floating lantern, and they were all staring at me. Did you guys do this for me? My teacher took my hands the same way mom used to. Your mom did this. She called the school a few months ago and planned the whole night, because the lanterns were your thing with her. She said you'd fake smile through the day to try and be strong, and told us to leave you alone until we got to the boats. The girl beside me pushed a lantern into my hands. We've been dying to hug you all day. The boat folded around me as I let mine go and watched it climb with the others. For the first time since the funeral, I wasn't at this lake without her. My son was in a school karate contest with a disabled kid, and he flexed his biceps to the crowd.
Everyone, thank you for the gift.
Half the school was
Thank you
chanting
for the
his
hiding,
name,
bro. I
and his
appreciate you.
opponent Sam limped onto the mat, one arm curled against his chest. I pushed down the bleacher steps, ready to drag my son off that mat myself. My son Cody bounced on his toes and cupped a hand to his ear. Who wants to see me take him down? The gym roared, and even the teachers were laughing behind their clipboards. A parent chaperone stuck her arm out to stop me from going any further. They're focused. Don't try to disturb them. Sam planted his good arm into a fighting stance, and the referee dropped his hand between them. Fight! The crowd got impatient. Come on, Cody! But Sam stepped inside his guard, swung his good arm, and cracked Cody across the jaw so hard the sound echoed. Cody hit the mat flat on his back and stayed down. The referee lifted Sam's arm. I guess we have a winner. The crowd clapped lazily, but I was cheering and whistling at the top of my lungs. Sam was grinning ear to ear, looking happier than I'd ever seen him. And when Cody ran out to the water fountain, I chased after him. What the hell is wrong with you? I didn't raise you like that. He put his hands on my shoulders. Mom, I let him win. My jaw dropped and he continued. I was always gonna let him win. I just hyped the crowd to make sure it felt real when he did. Behind him, the same kids who chanted Cody's name were now crowding around Sam, lifting his arm like a champion. I didn't need to find out if I raised him right. He'd been showing me the whole time. While I was doing deadlifts in PE, my classmate Bill stormed over to me smirking. Did you actually make the national powerlifting team? I told him yes, and he immediately squeezed my bicep and turned to his friends behind him. This is what I mean when I say girls are weak. Even she made it. I wasn't going to say anything, but then he announced to the class that he could beat me in a push-up contest. He dropped down before I could respond, and as a crowd formed, I decided to just embarrass him. Someone yelled, "Go," and I quickly did one push-up and told Bill to match it, but he smirked and went down, pressing himself up easier than I did. I was confused because he weighed like 300 pounds, but figured I'd just beat him on endurance. I started propelling myself off the floor like I'd done thousands of times, but every time I looked up, Bill was somehow keeping pace. We hit 40, then 50. Everyone shouted, and Bill was barely sweating. At 75, my arms began shaking while Bill kept going like he was a robot. His friends cheered and I mouthed, "What the hell?" My triceps collapsed at 114, and Bill slowly did his 115th, seemingly mocking me. He stood up and laughed. "I told you so." He put his arms in the air, celebrating to the crowd, while I stood there catching my breath in disbelief someone so heavy could do that. But then I noticed an elastic strap sticking out near his arm under his t-shirt. My eyes went wide and I instantly yanked his shirt up and gasped. Bill had strapped an elite-level powerlifting band under his arms and across his chest. Every time he dropped down, the band stretched and sprung him back up by itself. He could do a million push-ups with it. His face went pale as I ripped the band off. "Go again." He tried to refuse, but our classmates forced him down. Bill did one, shook through the second, and on the third push-up, he dropped face down, hitting his nose on the hardwood as he didn't even try to get up. I continued doing clean reps with my best friend on my back, while he heaved after just 3 push-ups. I was picking up the dirty dishes in my daughter's room when I saw the note on top of the food. "I'm sorry, Mom." My heart pounded because I didn't know what she meant. I turned the note over. "I'm done fighting." That's when I noticed her leukemia medication pill bottles were missing. Had my daughter taken her own life? I knew I needed to find her, so I grabbed the drawing pad she left the note in, and I immediately ran to my car. But where was she? I tried driving to her school and drove 50 miles over the speed limit. But when I arrived, the school was already closed. Everyone had left. I started to cry because I didn't know if my daughter was dead or alive. I decided to pick up the notebook and flick through the pages to look for clues. On the 3rd page, there was an elaborate drawing of a bridge nearby. Is that where she was? I turned the car around and drove to the bridge. When I got there, I saw saw her on the sidewalk leaning against the guardrail of the bridge. Eleanor! I screamed as I ran over. Eleanor turned around to me as I hugged her tightly. Mom, what are you doing here? I rubbed my hand down her back and started crying with relief. Eleanor, what are you doing here? Were you planning on ending your life? Eleanor pulled back slightly. Mom, no, I was here to toss my leukemia medicine into the lake. I was extremely confused because I didn't expect this answer, and I still didn't understand what was going on. But why? You need them, Eleanor. Eleanor just smiled up at me. Because the doctor called. I'm in cancer remission. I left the note behind because this was something I had to do by myself. I thought you wanted to end your life. She shook her head. Hell no. Nothing can take me out. The shock and relief made me pull her back into my arms and squeeze tightly. The little girl sat for her school photo and whispered, "Can you fix my face before my mom sees it?" She kept hugging her sleeves over her hands, and every time I adjusted the camera, she pulled her hair forward like she was trying to hide behind it. Before I took the picture, she asked if I could make her smile less crooked, then said, "Mom said it's disgusting." I'd been taking school photos for 15 years, so I knew the difference between camera nerves and a kid bracing for a verdict. I lowered the camera and said, "I'm going to take the picture I see, not the one you're scared your mom will see." A week later, her mother stormed into my office and slapped the photo on my desk. "I need this redone." It was one of the best shots from the whole class. Soft smile, bright eyes, one tiny gap where a front tooth was still growing in. The mother turned it toward herself and started circling things with a red pen. Crooked smile, weird eyes, that nose photograph's huge, and this gap makes her look like she bites furniture. The girl stood beside the chair with her sleeves pulled over her knuckles, shrinking every time the pen touched the paper. Her mother shoved the photo in her face. "Tell her, you don't like it either." The girl stared at the floor and whispered, "I don't like it either." I knelt down to her level and asked, "Do you want a new picture?" She pressed her lips together, checked her mother's face, and said, "Whatever makes her not hate it." Her mother snatched the photo back. "Good, delete that one." I opened the reshoot file, but instead of deleting the original, I printed a second copy and slid it across the desk. "This is the photo your mom wants erased," I said. "It's also the first one where you looked like yourself." Her mother reached for it. "Do not hand her that." The girl grabbed it first, holding the picture against her chest with both sleeves. Her mother's voice went sharp. "Put it down. We are fixing the smile, the gap, and that hair." I set the camera back on the tripod and pointed to the mark on the floor. Only if she wants another one. For a second, nobody moved. Then the girl stepped onto the mark with the original photo still pressed to her chest. Her mother said, "No teeth this time." The girl lowered her sleeves from her hands and looked at her mother. "I like my teeth." Her mother blinked like she had been slapped. "You don't know what looks good." The girl looked down at the photo once, then straight into the lens. "I know what looks like me." Her mother screeched, "Do not take that picture." The girl lifted her chin. "Take this one for me." The flash went off while she was smiling without hiding. I caught my husband sneaking out of bed in the middle of the night and coming home at 5 a.m. with woman's jewelry in his pocket. I pointed at it. "Whose jewelry is this? This isn't mine." He looked nervous, like I caught him doing something bad. "None of your business. Go back to bed." He dismissed me entirely and walked away smiling ear to ear. I knew he was hiding something, and I was sure the jewelry was from another woman, and he was cheating on me. So I went back to bed and came up with the perfect plan to find out the truth. The next day, I bought him a fancy new smartwatch and surprised him with it. I told him it's because I love him. He was thrilled and put it on, but what he didn't know was that while setting it up, I secretly turned on location tracking, synced his health data to my phone, and made myself his emergency contact, so I'd be able to see where exactly he went. And that same night, he tiptoed out of bed again, thinking I was asleep. An hour later, my phone buzzed. A notification from the watch. His heart rate was climbing, and the watch pinned his location at a house in a fancy neighborhood. My stomach turned because he was at another woman's house. I grabbed my keys to drive over there and catch him in the act, but on the way there, an emergency alert flashed on my screen. His heart rate had spiked to dangerous levels, and the watch had auto-dialed 911. My eyes widened. What was he doing? I slammed on the gas and sped to that house. I pulled up and jumped out, ready to kick him in his balls. But as I stormed to the house, the front door burst open, and men in black ski masks came pouring out, carrying bags. I gasped. They spotted me and aimed their guns right at me. I threw my hands up, screaming. Sure, I was about to die, wondering if they already had killed my husband. But then I noticed it. On one of their wrists was the exact smartwatch I'd given my husband. I stuttered, "Wait, is that you?" The robber froze, then slowly pulled off his mask. My jaw dropped. It was my husband. He wasn't cheating, he was robbing houses. And the watch had called 911 the second his heart spiked mid-robbery. Sirens screamed down the street, and the cops swarmed in. As they threw their hands up, the duffel bags hit the ground, and women's jewelry spilled out across the grass. The camp was on fire, and the only counselor standing between us and the boats wouldn't break protocol. The wildfire evacuation alarm went off, and every cabin was already moving toward the dock. I grabbed the boat shed door, and Greg stepped in front of it. No boats go out without a water safety officer on site. I told him the tree line was on fire. He held up the radio. "I'm getting one on the line right now. Nobody moves until I do." Through the window, I could see the other groups unchaining their boats and pushing off. Smoke hit the back of my throat. Greg was going to let us die before he broke protocol. I told him we needed to move, and he turned his back and called again. Smoke started pushing under the door. One of the younger kids began to cry, and Greg told her to sit down and trust him. The radio crackled back with static. I got in his face. "The other cabins are already on the water." He grabbed my arm. "You want me to lose my job? My promotion? I put 8 kids on boats with no safety officer, and something goes wrong. That's on me. Outside, the cabins past the
Everyone
field were
watching,
burning.
double have a
Ash was
screen.
raining down from the
Sunlight,
sky.
sunlight.
I looked at the chain
Oh,
on the
dang.
boats. Then I looked at the wood pile. I shoved past him and ran into the smoke. I grabbed a log from the pile and swung it into the padlock. It took 3 hits. The chain dropped. The rest of the kids poured out the door, and we dragged the boats to the water. All of us, paddles tangled, kids stumbling, Greg behind us screaming about liability. I was the last one in. I looked back. Greg was still on the bank, radio to his ear. Then the fire came over the hill all at once, and he dropped it and ran. By the time he reached the water, we were 20 yards out. He stood at the edge with the fire at his back and nowhere to go. They told us afterward he had the key to that chain in his pocket the whole time. It wouldn't have helped him. The boats were already gone. The day my mom asked if dinner was low-key bussin' or kinda mid, I knew something had broken in her brain. My little brother stared at her. My dad kept chewing like he hadn't heard anything. She gave me a big smile and waited. All I wanted was one normal dinner. I set my fork down. It's good, Mom. Then she pointed her fork at the green beans and announced, "These beans are